YouTube, what's good? It's your boy Not Real, and I'm coming back at you guys with another video. And today's video is going to be called "What Does It Mean to Be Transgender and What is the Proper Respect for Dealing with Transgender Individuals?" So before we go ahead and get into this video, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, please go ahead and hit the bell so you can go ahead and receive those notifications whenever I upload. Alright, so the notes I kind of took on this video are actually like really extensive, because I actually used 3 different dictionaries: Merriam-Webster's, then the guidelines for psychological practice with transgender and gender non-conforming people, and I also used the American Psychiatric Association Dictionary of Psychology. And the reason why I use these 3 different definitions is because 2 of them, of course, the guidelines for psychological practice with transgender and gender non-conforming people, and the APA Dictionary of Psychology are, of course, definitions created and coined by psychologists and psychiatrists. So those are people who, they're brain doctors, like not like neurosurgeons, but like they're like thought doctors, if that makes sense. So like they're doctors on like how the brain actually like functions on a psychological psych in the head. You get what I'm saying. Of course, common sense is common sense. So the first thing we are going to define is the term transgender. This one we are taking from the guidelines for psychological practice with transgender and gender non-conforming people. Transgender is defined as an adjective that is an umbrella term used to describe the full range of people whose gender identity and or gender role do not conform to what is typically associated with their sex assigned at birth. So pretty much sex, you have 3 sexes: male, female, intersex, right? So male penis, female typically vagina, and intersex. The old school term used to be hermaphrodite, but I mean, you can be born with a vagina and then have more testosterone than estrogen, or you can be born with the penis and like have more estrogen than testosterone, or you can have both penis and vagina, or like you can have clitoris and testes, like you can have vaginal opening and you can have testes. So that's what sex is. Gender is man, woman. So sex is biological and chromosomal. Like that's literally the definition. And gender is in your brain or what you want to do with it, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and define sex. So sex, and this one comes from Merriam-Webster's: either of the 2 forms of individuals that occur in many species and they are distinguished respectively as female or male, especially on the basis of their reproductive organs and structures. So like phallus, male, whole, not whole, but whole female. And this one is from the APA Dictionary of Psychology. The traits that distinguish between males and females. Sex refers especially to the physical and biological traits, whereas gender refers especially to social and cultural traits, although the distinction between the 2 terms is not regularly observed. Meaning that one is biological and one is a social construct. A lot of people, everyday people, don't distinguish the 2. So, you know. And this is from the guidelines for psychological practice with transgender and gender non-conforming people. Sex is typically assigned at birth or before during ultrasound based on the appearance of external genitalia. When the external genitalia are ambiguous, other indicators, examples, internal genitalia, chromosomal and hormonal sex, are considered to be assigned at a sex with the aim of assigning a sex that is most likely to be argument with the child's gender identity. For most people, gender identity is congruent with sex assigned at birth. Cisgender, and don't feel left out or whatever, I only started knowing what cisgender was like 2018. Chishet. Like for the longest time, like the word cishet, C-I-S-H-E-T, I always thought that was chishet. Don't ask me how or why. I didn't know they were saying cishet. I didn't know what the so my dog, I used to be on Twitter and talking about chisset. Whatever. Right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is is gender identity. According to the guidelines for psychological practice with transgender and gender non-conforming people, gender identity is defined as a person's deeply felt inherent sense of being a boy, a man or male, a girl, a woman, or female, or an alternative gender, probably like gender queer, gender non-conforming, gender neutral, that may or may not correspond to a person's sex assigned at birth or to a person's primary or secondary sex characteristics. Since gender identity is internal, a person's gender identity cannot necessarily be visible to others, which is why, people are like, oh, why you didn't ever tell me, or I never knew anything about you thinking that you're trans or whatever. Well, duh. You will not know how many times I've been told that shit, and I'm just like, since gender identity is internal, a person's gender identity is not necessarily visible to others. Affirmed gender identity refers to a person's gender identity after coming out as transgender, gender non-conforming, or undergoing a social and or medical transition process. Gender identity, according to the APA Dictionary of Psychology, one's self-identification is male or female, although the dominant approach in psychology for many years has been to regard gender identity as residing in the individual. The important influence of social structures, cultural expectation, and personal interaction in its development is now recognized as well. Significant evidence now exists to support the conceptualization of gender identity as influenced by both environmental and biological factors. So pretty much what they're saying is that gender identity used to just solely be looked at from a psychological aspect. Now they're accepting gender identity that has been influenced upon through environmental factors. Could be sexual abuse, mental abuse, anything traumatic. I'm guessing, don't take my words for it because I'm not a psychologist. Alright, now, gender identity from Merriam-Webster is a person's internal sense of being male, female, some combination of male and female, or neither male nor female. So now we're going to talk about gender dysphoria and actually what makes people trans, because in order to be trans, you have to have gender dysphoria. Like, there's a whole debate going on, like, oh, you don't have that gender dysphoria. Yes, you do, because that's kind of what the fuck makes you trans. Gender dysphoria, according to the guidelines of psychological practice for transgender and gender non-conforming people, define gender dysphoria as discomfort or distress related to the incongruence between a person's gender identity, sex assigned at birth, and or primary sex characteristics. In 2013, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, 5th edition, adopted the term gender dysphoria as a diagnostic characterized by a marked incongruence between a person's gender identity and their gender assigned at birth. Gender dysphoria replaced the diagnostics of gender identity disorder in the previous version of DSM, so that doesn't exist anymore. That's all it's saying. According to the APA Dictionary of Psychology, gender dysphoria is defined as 1, the discontent with the physical or social aspect of one's own sex. So pretty much you just don't like being what you were identified at birth, whether that's because you just really don't like it, or because of how people have made you feel like, or how you just in your head, it's just like, this doesn't feel right. So that's pretty much what that means. Definition number 2, in DSM-5, a diagnostic class that replaces gender identity disorder and shifts clinical emphasis from cross-gender identification itself to focus on the possible distress arising from a sense of mismatch or incongruence that one may have about one's experience under gender versus one assigned gender. Diagnostic criteria for gender dysphoria in children include significant distress or impairment due to marked gender incongruence, such as a strong desire to be or belief that one is the other gender, preference for toys, games, roles, activities stereotypically associated with the other gender, and a strong dislike of one's sexual anatomy. In adults, the manifestation of gender dysphoria may include a strong desire to replace one's physical sex characteristics with those of gender and the belief that one has emotions of the gender and the desire to be treated as if the gender recognized as having an alternative gender identity. Whew. Shit, I'm out of breath. So essentially what they're saying is, pretty much what they're saying in that in that definition is that they pretty much moved away from focusing on just, hey, this person is trying so fucking be it. Now they're focusing on triggers and they're going in depth. This is what I'm guessing. I don't speak scientist. Okay, so Merriam-Webster's easy. Woo! A distressed state arising from conflict between a person's gender identity and the sex that a person has or as having as at birth. Alright, and we're finally here at our final definition to try to help everybody trying to understand what transgender is and that's gender itself. Okay, first one we're gonna do, we're gonna take it from the APA Dictionary of Psychology, and gender according to them is defined as the condition of being male, female, or neutral. In the human context, the distinction between gender and sex reflects the usage of these terms. Sex usually refers to the biological aspects of maleness or femaleness, whereas gender implies the psychological, behavioral, social, and cultural aspects of being male or female. And according to Merriam-Webster's, gender is defined as the behavioral, cultural, psychological traits typically associated with one's sex. Sex is what you were born as, and gender is how you act. Now, let's go ahead and get into proper respect for engaging with transgender individuals. And people are like, oh, proper respect. First of all, there's proper respect when dealing with everybody. Of course, duh. But this specific video is for people who don't even know what being trans is or what it encompasses. I got about 5 tips. I just came up with 5 tips. I didn't want to go too deep. So someone just pretty much came out to you and said, hey, they're trans or whatever. So anyway, 1, you can ask for pronouns or whatever their preferred name now is. Some people choose to change their name, some people don't. But and the reason why you do this is because this lets the trans individual know that you're open to understanding, and it also creates a welcoming environment. Like, I remember there's been some family members that I was like, oh, you know, this is, you know, I've been doing this, that, and the third. And it's like, oh, pronouns. What? Okay. Number 2, don't ask about genitals or genitalia, because it's usually for people who didn't know about the person pre-transitioning. So if someone you didn't never know came up to you, like you knew them but you didn't know them pre-transition, like you don't ask them if they got surgery. For 1, it's not your business, and for 2, it's not your business. Like, you just don't randomly walk up to someone and go ask them about their genitals. And I get it that a person being trans, some people do want to go through surgery, some people don't have the funds to go get the surgery, or whatever the personal reason is. You don't go around asking grown-ass men and grown-ass women about their genitals. And I guarantee you, if like more trans people just start like knocking the hell out of people for stuff like that, the world would definitely understand, and I'm here for it. Why? Because someone being trans or someone telling you that they're trans does not give you right or permission to ask about genitals. It just doesn't. Like, just because someone is trans, their genitals has not automatically become your business. Also, if the trans individual does not have intentions of having sex with you, not meaning, oh, you think someone looks cute so you get a right to ask. Like, nah, that's not how it works. If that person does not have intentions of having sex with you, it's none of your damn business. And number 3, keep your opinions and your beliefs to yourself. Nobody cares what you don't like, support, or agree with. It's not your life. It's their life, and I'm pretty sure if people actually cared about what other people care about, how they transition or whatever they choose to do with their bodies, there wouldn't be any out in the open trans people out here. Your beliefs are yours. Mind your own sins, because your God, might not be anybody else's God. What's a sin to you might not be a sin to anybody else. And opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. But guess what? You see how you wipe your own and you're not wiping mine, right? So maintain your opinions. What I eat, you don't shit. So shut the fuck up. Transgender is not a noun. Oh my god, like, this one gets me, you know, like, oh, that person is a transgender. You know, now that I think about it, I'm guessing saying a person is a trans is everybody's better version of saying, oh, that person's a tranny. So if that's what it is, then fine. But I'm gonna need for you motherfuckers to understand parts of speech, and just like you are not a black, yeah, nigga, you smack. That's they called you a black, right? Well, I'll smack the out of you for calling me a black and a trans. Like, what the f? So you can be a transgender man, you can be a transgender woman, a transgender person. Trans is an adjective. It defines or it addresses the noun. I don't know why we have to go back to this. Did everybody forget their parts of speech or something? Number 5, you don't tell anyone about somebody else being trans. Like, let's say I have a friend named Bob, and Bob is like, hey, Narelle, I'm trans. I don't go to my friend John. I don't go to John and go tell, hey, John, did you know Bob was trans? Don't do that. Alright everybody, thanks for tuning in to my video. Thanks for watching, and please go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't. Bye.